Oh, Bowtie Security Guy here. Wanted to talk about something a little different, and that is relationships when you're in cyber and kind of how difficult it is to maintain them if you're in an operations or an incident response type role, where you're either you have an on-call schedule, or if your team's really small, you're on call all the time, which has happened to me. I've had both experiences where I'm 24/7 on call, the only guy, and I've had the situation where I'm, have an on-call schedule. But having that conversation up front with what it's going to take to kind of be dedicated to your role in cyber and still try to be a father, husband, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it may be, is important. And also making sure that your loved one is on board with it and agrees with kind of that approach. Because there will be days, I had one incident that, lasted almost 20 something days where I was working nonstop and barely sleeping. We were doing rotations and kind of changing back and forth. It was very difficult to kind of stay motivated and stay excited, but we did the best we could. We ended up getting everything handled. Then there's some incidents that take a few minutes. There's multiple times where I've been at a birthday party and my phone will go off. I'm on call and I'll be working on top of a trash can somewhere. I could be there for 10 minutes or I could be there for 10 hours. It really depends. So knowing what you're getting into when you're trying to make a career pivot into like an operations or a incident response type role is really important. There's lots of roles in security that are not on call, governments, compliance, things of that nature. Um, Even pen testing is not really on call, but your hours will be weird because you're normally going to be pen testing in the evening, unless you're pen testing things overseas, then you might be pen testing in the morning, vice versa. It depends on the time zone. But either way, pen testing is pretty, pretty regimented, but your schedule is kind of wonky because of when testing can be done, when it can't. But this is specifically focused on operations and kind of the toll it takes. So having those conversations early with your significant other, as well as setting boundaries, because what happens is you get stuck in an always on mindset. So even when you're not working, you're hitting refresh on your email, you're doing those things constantly, checking email. um, it's really important to say, hey, I am on call. It doesn't mean I'm going to be monitoring a mailbox. It doesn't mean this, really setting those guidelines clearly with your leader to ensure that you still have some bit of sanity left. Because when you get into that mindset, it is hard to break because you just kind of continue in that mindset because it's just what you're used to. So as you're looking for a career in cyber, I highly recommend really talking about the sacrifices that it's going to take, explaining to your significant other that there's going to be some challenges. There's going to be times where you need them to pick up the slack and do a lot more. You're also going to sacrifice late nights and weekends and a lot of times. So it's just part of the gig. It's part of the sacrifice of being a cybersecurity professional. Um, you know, like I said, there are roles that don't have that, but the fun ones, at least fun ones for me and most of the engineers and people who enjoy that rush of an incident, um, those ones require a lot of sacrifice from your personal life, unfortunately. But man, is it a blast. I absolutely loved every minute of incident response. I miss the rush of an incident bridge and the chaos of outages and things going like some days. But then I remember I also enjoy my life now where I'm not on call, where I don't have that chaos. But there are parts of me that just loved that, constant, vigilance. You're always on. Cyber never sleeps. So that's all I got for this week. Hope you have a great weekend. Good luck out there.